Good morning, everyone. Merry Christmas, because this is the December 24th. In Iceland, we celebrate Christmas on this day. And today, I'm only going to do good news. It has been widely reported over the last few days that the Ukrainian Air Force shot down three Russian Su-34S multi-role fighter aircraft in the Kherson region in an aerial ambush. The jets had an unscheduled meeting with the PAC-2 interceptor missile that's coming from the Patriot system very recently provided by Germany to Ukraine. The Russians have been forced to increase the concentration of these fighters or bombers in the sky because the Russian ground forces have been completely smirked by the Ukrainian artillery and mortar teams that are operating on the west bank or the right bank of the river, mainly because it lies higher. So that's just the entire left bank or the east bank lies lower than the other side. And so they have very good view of what's happening and they can see and spot any movements, especially if it's a big concentration. To counter this, the Russians have increased their bombing campaign primarily with these 500-pound glide bombs. These bombs are crazy. I've seen craters created by these bombs. They're very big. The Su-34S is the primary platform to deliver these bombs. The bombs themselves, having a very long range and some guidance sometimes, are very inaccurate and need to be dropped from a very high altitude to be able to glide the 50 kilometers needed. Before this incident, the Russians have been operating under the assumption that the Ukrainian air defense can't reach them. It's just been true. We only have had one Patriot system protecting Kyiv, and that's just been stuck here, of course. And then they would have probably assumed that we got another one, and that would be stuck around Odessa, which is also probably true. They didn't know that another one was already here, probably, but they knew it was coming. Because the jets were operating at such high altitude, up to 12 kilometers, the effective range of the Patriot system was increased up to 160 kilometers, pretty much dooming the Russian bombers. To ensure the success of the operation, the Ukrainians had the Patriot system's radar inactive and detected the bombers' approach with a shorter range radar. As soon as they were detected, and of course, the radar warning in the jets went off, the Ukrainians turned on the Patriot system's radar and effectively just locking the bombers inside the bubble with no chance to escape. This is an incredible achievement. This is also marking a really thick line in the sand, because this says air defense does not only mean air defense from missiles and attack. Air defense are an effective tool on the battlefield. They deter attacks. If they deter these jets from attacking this area with these, for example, these glide bombs, it gives the Ukrainians breathing space to be able to bring in armor, to bring in all kinds of stuff. And this, you can just multiply this over the entire front, because the Russians don't know where the next Patriot system is going to be. It's very, very important. And you can just compare it to the sea drones and the naval capability of the nation that doesn't even have a navy. The naval capability of the Ukrainians, they were able to push the Russian Navy outside of the western part of the Black Sea, giving them breathing room to send food, to send all kinds of stuff through the shipping lanes. It's incredibly important and demonstrate a capability for these air defense systems that are not only for shooting down missiles. And in other good news, the Ukrainians are supposed to receive their first batch of F-16 by the end of this year. Denmark and the Netherlands have come out with a statement saying that Ukraine will have F-16 in Ukraine by the end of 2023. I just want to list what exactly, at least in the beginning, Ukraine will use these airframes for. Number one, boosting the air defense by intercepting cruise missiles. The F-16 have an onboard advanced radar and tracking systems that greatly surpass the Soviet-era jets that Ukraine is currently fielding here in Ukraine. This is very important because this will give flexibility and will be able to, provide air defense for less covered, like areas with less coverage. Number two, hunting down surface-to-air missile sites by the Russians using the HARM missile. The HARM missile is a radar seeker. It has 3 modes. Ukraine has already been using the missile to attack these missiles, the radar sites of the Russians. But unfortunately, it's kind of been like a jerry-rigged, kind of like made, it's almost literally like it's just clamped into place and then released. Like it has a very, very limited operating capabilities with Soviet jets, because this missile isn't designed for it. It is designed to communicate with this specific jet by unlocking 2 other modes, one using the onboard radar system and 2 using the radar in the missile itself, but communicating with the jet. It's incredibly important because these jets might be flying, they might detect a radar like a peak or burst or whatever, and they can target in a target package for the missile, send it off, and then ask the missile to search for a target site. And number 3, and this has somewhat been overlooked in the coverage of this thing, is that they're probably going to be forcing these Russian bombers into air-to-air engagements, meaning dogfights in the sky. And the F-16 is just very fast, it's very nimble, it's literally designed for this, it's a fighter aircraft to be able to fight in the sky. And I will say, and this is my very much expert journalistic opinion, that they will beat out anything in the Russian Air Force, any jet. And I'm also talking about the Su-57, like high-tech 5th generation fighter. They probably will never meet because Russia only made 10 of them and they're all operating like in the Pacific, protecting against America or something. And 2, they're just highly unlikely to be able to fight them. All the other ones, they don't stand a chance to the F-16. And then if you are operating under the assumption that you might end up fighting an F-16, you will have to completely change your mission planning. And that's very important to keep the Russians on their toes. Is this the final nail in Russia's coffin? Is this what's going to turn the war around? Is this what's going to win the war for Ukraine? Probably not. Is this an incredible capability increase for the Ukrainians? Yes, both of these things. Very, 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 very important. But anyways, I hope you have a wonderful holidays. And I'll see you probably not tomorrow, but very soon.